call the meeting to order. And it's May 11, 2020. This is a meeting of the Board of Library Trustees for the town of Westwood. We are conducting this via remote participation, Zoom, and all of the necessary certifications and sign-offs have been received. Is that correct, Tricia?
As far as I know, yep.
Excuse me, point of order, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
This is Mary speaking. In looking over the guidelines for a Zoom meeting, do we need to do certain things about taking attendance, and are we going to record the meeting? I think that was one of the recommendations.
Well, it's being streamed live by Connor Lynch for Westwood Media, so it is live streamed. And a recording, I imagine, is being made.
Okay. So those present at the meeting, Trish, will you just tell us for the record who's present?
Okay, present are Maureen Vanu, trustee, Mary Maisie Phelps, trustee, Mary Beth Persons, trustee, Jessica Cole, trustee, Wendy Thornton, trustee, Karen Gallagher, participating remotely, head of circulation, Claire Connors, branch librarian, sitting adjacent to me. Connor Lynch is on the Westwood Media Center link, and Paul Fitzgerald is attending as well.
A quorum being present, we will call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 9, 2020 meeting. Has every member of the board had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anybody have any additions, amendments, deletions? No?
No.
Hearing none, the
No.
chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes of the March 9, 2020 meeting made by
So
Board
moved.
Member Marcy Phelps, seconded
Seconded.
by Board Member Van Au. I will call the roll. Board Member Van Au,
Aye.
Board Member Marcy Phelps,
Aye.
Wendy Thornton,
Aye.
Board Member Cole,
Aye.
and the chair also votes aye.
How about Mrs. Persons?
Mary Beth
Yeah.
Persons.
Oh, Mary Beth, sorry, Mary Beth, Board Member Persons.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. The minutes of the meeting are approved. The next item on the agenda is the director's report, which has been submitted to the board, and I would ask Trish Perry to just give a brief overview of that report.
Okay. So I did submit two separate reports to you. The first was an update as of April 9th, April 7th, which we had not met during the month of April. So that was prepared in advance. Updates that are important from that are that Shirley DeFeo retired from the staff of the Westwood Public Library, and Erin McGrady joined the staff of the Westwood Public Library. Shortly after the March meeting that we held, we went into the stay home advisement from the governor. So we have not actually been in the building since Friday, March 13th. So that was the update from April. And then for March, I have to say, shout out to the staff for being extraordinary and creating virtual programming basically on demand. They have done an excellent job. I think the Instagram follower number of 1,094 is
Great.
there's 50 content videos that have been created by the children's department alone. We've had adult programming, knitting programming, YA programming, kids programming, readers advisory, author talks, author visits. It's just been, people have been staying at home, but they've all been participating in a lot of library activities. The 12 books in 12 weeks challenge is ongoing, sort of a soft rollout. It was really just to get people sort of engaged again in reading, and we may incentivize that as we move forward. And Islington is on another agenda item, so I'll wait for that one. But really, the staff has been just extraordinary. So
That's right. Yeah.
Good.
On behalf of the trustees, please express to the staff our gratitude for their dedication and commitment and their ingenuity in a very challenging time. I know that a lot of programming was conducted, and I know that we changed the hoopla to allow people to take out more books. And so I think that we did what we could to serve our patrons in a time that we really had to do, kind of make it up as it went along. And so we all appreciate that. And any board member wish to comment on the director's report or anything at this point?
Paul, this is Mary. I would second what you said. Just seeing the emails and the social posts and everything come out as it has been marvelous. The transition to allowing more digital content, I think, has been great. I keep hearing the expression, there's no playbook for this, but clearly the staff stepped up and they're continuing to step up, and that's great to see.
I agree. I think it's a tribute to Tricia's leadership and to the
Yep.
quality of the people she's
Absolutely.
and the staff she's created.
I was also on the Zoom call last week for the staff meeting at the library, and Tricia put me on the spot and said, "Do you have anything you want to say?" And I basically told them that they've been amazing, because I, again, follow the library on Instagram and Facebook, and I can't believe how much content they're putting out there. And even I sat in on a book club that Claire did. I know you're on there, Claire. That was fun. I enjoyed it. And they're really giving out awesome suggestions on books to read and ideas for the kids, and even like the little videos that they're doing for the felt stories. I've caught a few of them, and they're great. So kudos to your excellent staff. You're very lucky, Tricia. And
Paul, it's Mary Beth.
Yeah.
I just also wanted to, jump on the bandwagon here very excitedly. I think, not only everything, what everyone else has said, but also just the graphics of everything they're just beautiful. It's amazing. I don't know who's doing all of it, but whoever it is, they're just really, they capture your eye. They're happy. I mean, you look at them and you're like, you forget everything that's going on around you. It just, It draw you in. They're really wonderful. And, the amount of, and also the amount of content that's in one of these things is great, because you're like, wow, there's so much going on. So, it's wonderful every time you see one of the posts, and so it's awesome. You guys are doing an awesome job.
Okay, well, I'll share that with the rest of the staff who isn't on the call.
That's great.
They really have. Would you expect any less, though? Right?
No, absolutely not.
Anything else, Trish, on the director's report?
Just that we are working closely with the schools as well. The digital content, it's a struggle for some families still, getting the books that are required reading and making sure that they have access to something that it's compatible with. But I think we're working really closely with the schools, and so far it's been a positive. Today we had to drop off a backpack with a book and a playaway, but we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I have just a quick question for Tricia.
Yes.
I know occasionally in the past you've mentioned situations where someone might park in the parking lot to take advantage of the library's free Wi-Fi. And I've seen a couple of questions online from people who maybe don't have internet access in their homes. And I'm wondering if that kind of thing is available. Is it encouraged? Are you seeing anybody kind of social distancing by parking out in the parking lot and utilizing the Wi-Fi?
I'd have to say I don't know. I assume yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The people who are living in the apartments across the street, that there are cars parked there with some individuals in them, and so I assume that's the Wi-Fi option.
Yeah.
We haven't really publicized it. Morrill Library in Norwood was sort of like, we have free Wi-Fi. Just socially distance yourselves in our parking lot. We certainly could. And, we are going to be putting out a wire update. So that may be something we should
Maybe
we
something to
can certainly
consider.
add it. Yep.
I don't know how big an issue that is in Westwood, but just trying to keep in mind people that have needs and the different
Yep.
reasons they go to the library, if that's one of them.
Okay, can do that.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Any further discussion on the director's report? Hearing none, pursuant for purposes of the board knows this, but just for just a point of information, the director's report is deemed to be accepted as submitted. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is election of officers and reorganization of the board. Ordinarily, as my fellow trustees know, at this meeting in May, it would ordinarily be following town election and a town meeting, and the board, new board members or returning board members would have been elected, duly elected and sworn in. And as we all know, that has not yet occurred. It will be occurring, I believe, June 2nd will be the town election, and the following, the 8th or the 7th will be the town meeting. And so I asked Trish to put this on the agenda merely so that we could actually take a vote, and an understanding that the reorganization of the board will await the town election, the swearing in of the board members. And so I would accept a motion to move that until the meeting on June 15th, which is scheduled. It will occur after the election and town meeting. And I will also accept a motion that the present officers retain their positions until that time. Is there a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
Made by trustee Persons. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by board member Van Aal. I'll do it by roll call. Trustee Persons, how do you vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Van Aal.
Aye.
Trustee Thornton.
Aye.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Marcy Phelps.
Aye.
And the chair also votes aye. And so we will continue with the present offices until the June 15th, 2020 meeting. And the organization and election of officers will be placed on the agenda for that meeting. Okay. The next item on the agenda and one of the major purposes we wanted to convene the meeting this evening is for Trish to discuss the phased reopening of the library facilities and how that relates to the phased reopening of the town government generally. And I know that, Trish, you've been participating in some meetings. And so we would appreciate an update and anything that we need to do. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. The Governor Baker today came out with sort of the stages of phases that Massachusetts is going to go through in terms of reopening our state. And there are 4 stages. Still no dates really assigned to any of them. And I think it's very much a slow rollout approach, which thank you to Mary Beth Persons, who is shared a document this morning from Rhode Island about their rollout in terms of library buildings, specifically our state Mass Library System and the MBLC, Mass Board of Library Commissioners, are still working on formulating a plan. They did have questions that were submitted to the governor's task force, specific to things like library materials and the statewide delivery, and maintaining the health, safety, and security of staff, and at what point a rollout for opening libraries to the public might be something that is in time considered. I would say that the suggestions right now are to first get some staff back in the building, maintaining social distance, maintaining a low level, if you will, of staff within a facility, and then getting ready to roll out additional services after that prep plan is done. I think that for the near future, depending on when the governor gives us a green light from the stay-at-home order, we would be staffing on a bi-weekly limited staff basis with a staff A, Team Austin, and a staff B, Charlotte Bronte, and coordinating those weeks with specific tasks that need to get done in particular, the return of books that are out that have been checked out now since March. So the
Yeah.
date for those is June 20th, and that date's coming up. So we'd like to get a sort of a head start on managing and quarantining those materials as they're coming in. So one of the tasks for staff would be to do that, and then move subsequent to approval by the Board of Health and with advice from the safety personnel, the town administrator, and following protocols from the state, move into potentially curbside holds delivery, but that's still a ways out. I don't think it's certainly not 2 weeks away. So I think that would be a planned approach, and one that would be very complicated in that we still need to maintain some quarantining of materials once they're returned. So we're working on how best to manage that. And there are conversations at every level with department heads, with MLS, with the Board of Library Commissioners, with other directors, with the network. I don't know yet when delivery will restart and what that will look like. So there's still a lot of questions out there. That being said, if we are going to reopen the facilities, right now, the best option to establish a contactless pickup would be the main library. It's suited for parking, we can use the space in between the front doors as a barrier and have staff put holds in between in the vestibule, and patrons picking up their holds without any staff involvement. So that's the direction I would like to start heading, with your approval. That I think that would be our first step. After phase one, it opens up a little bit. So it's there's not a date on that, and it could be 3 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, but it could be July 6th. It could be August 1st. I don't know when we'll be at that point, but when we do get to that point, I don't think that we can make that same contactless pickup option available at the branch. I think that we have to focus on the main library and establish that as the primary sole option, at least for now.
Thank you, Trish. I think just thinking of the layout of both facilities in my head right now, I think you're absolutely right. There is no vestibule at the branch the way there is at the main library. People can come into the area where you the sort of glassed in area, I assume, is what you're talking about, and that's where the contactless dropping off and picking up of materials would be taking place.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we have a similar space in the branch, and I think the interest of safety of the staff and equally important of our patrons suggests that it should be the main branch and not the Islington branch. But I'm happy to hear from my fellow trustees on that question.
I agree with that also, Trish. I guess I just want to ask you one follow up on that. How would that work? You say one person would primarily be in charge of picking those books out for people, and you'd wrap them up for someone. But how would actually the pickup work?
Okay, so I've purchased stacks of paper bags. I did that before when we thought we might go down this road before. So it would be that staff would get the holds list, and it would probably start out with local holds picked up at Westwood. And once we start running those holds lists, a staff person, and it can be multiple staff that would do the picks, but one person will do the picks for an individual. So they would go and put the books into the bag and then check out the whole bag to the individual place with the name of the person on the bag and their checkout slip stapled to the bag. And then that bag goes out onto a table that's in the foyer or vestibule area. And then a call will be made to the patron that their items are available for pickup. We are in a, technology is great. The sorter is one of the issues that we have in that it's automated and it will pick up a hold as soon as a book triggers a hold. So if someone were to return Dear Edward tonight, and if we were fulfilling holds, that book could then trigger a hold for somebody else as soon as it was checked in. So we don't want to turn things around that quickly. We want to be able to quarantine them for up to 72 hours, have a specific area that they go in. And so holds won't be available as quickly as they appear to be if you get that email, and that's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But in terms of
Trish,
the staff would pull them and put them in the bag.
What happens though once they're on the table in the vestibule? I mean,
Then they wait, and we would be open, let's say 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. There's a couple of options for that one too. So the Minuteman is looking into scheduling software that might, you would have to pick a pickup time and pick up your items at that time. There could be much like an ATM, if your items are available, you can drive up and park in maybe that first or second spot, not the handicap spots, and walk over. And if there's somebody in the vestibule, wait until they have completed their transaction. I think of it like an ATM, kind of like there's that social distancing that you don't want people in there at the same time, and signage would help with that. But then, then you hear about what happened at some ice cream shop yesterday with all sorts of, foolishness. So we are, as a consortium, Bill McNulty is looking into scheduling software that exists and seeing if that might work. I don't know if we want to hold people to a tight schedule. What happens if you don't make that 15 minutes?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like if we can rely on people's social distancing and queuing for a little, I mean, you can almost have, I don't want to say drive up in the fire lane though, because that would be bad. The fire chief would not like me to have that be the drop.
So this is Maureen. I will say, I think, check out the scheduling software, but I know of a school that's not far from here, and they used something like that to schedule students to come and pick up belongings.
Yeah.
And they actually had like a tent outside, and they would put them, and and also they did it to pick up Chromebooks at the beginning. And part of the problem was that people were not coming for the appointed times and were persistently calling, looking for, to be accommodated, I guess is what I'm saying. So there could be pros and cons with that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just
you could also use in the vestibule entrance on one side and exit on the other to keep the flow like that. With a sign saying only one person in the vestibule at a time.
Right. Tricia, I think you alluded to some signage. I think you may want to think about signage and even potentially putting, footprints on the sidewalk coming in about, with us, maybe a stop sign, stop here. If someone's in the vestibule, wait here, wait till they've left. And, you may, maybe that's something that when the staff first go back to the building, when it's staff only, maybe they can walk through some scenarios and work out what some different comings and goings. And I think some clear signage would be necessary. And, you got to think that, hopefully people are used to it at the grocery store and things now, so that they should be able to play by those rules. But it sounds like this is developing, and it's, the details will come into focus. I did have a question though, Tricia. You mentioned the sorter. Does this, I'm assuming the book drops are closed now. Will you be reopening the book drops? Is that how returns will happen?
The book drops have been open the whole time.
Oh, they've been open the whole time. Okay.
We have never closed them down, but.
Okay. Are you getting many books in? Because I know as soon as I heard from Minuteman that all my, returns were extended till the end of June, I thought, okay, I'm just leaving the books here.
We haven't got a lot of returns in, but we get, I would say a regular small amount every couple days. People have asked, we've had calls, I don't want to hold on to them anymore. Can I bring them and drop them off? So the book drops, we never close the book drops.
Okay.
And people, it's primarily Karen Gallagher, Andrea Vargas was in there, and Linda Skerry, but primarily Karen has gone in with gloves and the masks.
Okay.
I made 34 masks over the weekend. So we have cotton masks, and then the town's going to be providing, I think, some more masks, and we have plenty of gloves. So, it's been, the handling of the materials has been fairly concerted effort not to, to be careful. Just,
There's two things I would suggest, Trish. One is I think we should attempt to do some type of scheduling. Obviously, not punishing people who, for some reason, they can't make the schedule. But if you ask them to respectfully try to come between a 15 or 20-minute time frame, I think that will just enable us to have a better sense of control. Obviously, if someone can't make it, we're not going to, hide the book away or something. But I think if we can get it that way, you'll have a sense of numbers in any given hour. And the other thing I would suggest is, if we're thinking about signage, we may want to just make hand sanitizer available and ask people to put it on whenever they come into the vestibule.
Okay. We do have that large Purell station. So okay.
I think we should just say, please, upon entering, use hand sanitizer.
I wonder how many people will show up with cups and just fill them.
I was thinking something like that, Mary.
Tricia, would we ever want to do a separate pickup for the children's books? Like, could we do a children book pickup in the back by like the garden? I don't know if that would make it more confusing for people.
The problem with that is there's no place to keep them dry and not have staff right there. Like once you open that door, you're into the program.
Okay.
But we, I suppose we could have specific hours, but then, if you're picking up children's books, but your grandmother's with you.
Yeah. Okay.
But it sounds like you have some thoughts and we can put a plan in place when we have more guidance. And I know that you're coordinating closely with the town administrator and the town in general about facility reopening.
Yeah, we have our own mini task force for, rec department and the safety and facilities and the town administrator. So we're always talking about it. It's waiting kind of for that guideline or guidance from the state as to when and who should start easing and at what point that begins. I think much like Rhode Island, I think that we're going to be doing the staff only in the building, getting the new materials prepped to go out, relocating some of the stacks and creating that social distancing area. When and if computers are ever made available again for public use, that's way down the line from where we are today. So I think virtual programming stays as an option, and it'll be a virtual summer reading program. That's pretty much all. I would say that's pretty well established now that Lizzie, Claire, Molly, Erin, Felicia, Christy, they're all they've all been working on that and kind of fine tuning it. So I feel like that's ready to roll too. So
I think when we have our plan in place, I would ask we can use the facilities of Westwood of the cable to
Oh,
do a
absolutely, yeah.
presentation and sort of maybe even do a walkthrough
Okay.
and have that up on the town site.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
We'll ask Connor,
Yeah.
who's on the line.
And I think
Will the
people would be,
town-
I'm sorry.
Will the town be doing training for your staff, or will you be responsible for that on all the hygiene protocols and the,
Good
you know,
question.
the social distancing protocols? Like who will be responsible for that?
Well, there was some preliminary discussion about whether before staff would come into buildings, whether or not temperatures or questionnaires might be appropriate. If we do go down that road, there would be training for, you know, for how to take a temperature and what staff would be doing that. So yes, to your question, there are definitely conversations around that in terms of safety and protocols.
So you're getting, there will be guidance you feel from the town. So you'll be getting that.
I think Chief Deckers and the Board of Health, Jared Orsini, yes.
And I imagine, and you've probably received some guidance about if someone were to present sick at work. I mean, it's one thing if someone's at home and all that, but if all of a sudden someone were to be sick at work, you know, they would have protocol regarding that, you know.
Okay. Well, we'd send them home, but beyond that, you're right. What kind of testing, what kind of tracing?
Right.
Any further discussion on the phase reopening? And obviously we'll be visiting this again at the June meeting. But any further comments or questions for Trish?
Well, I
Yes.
know, I'm sorry, I do have some.
Go ahead.
Sure.
As far as like all of the things that you would need to, like going forward, I know it sounds early on and all, but since everybody will be doing this and everybody will be needing it, is the town going to be getting all of the masks and the wipes and the, you know, anything you would need to, you know, clean all of the library materials or whatever and protect the staff? Is this town responsible? You know, and are they going to be getting that, or the like the Purell like that we would need because it's a public building and all that? Like, I would imagine, you know, I don't know how hard it is to get any of that stuff now. I have no idea. So, but there would probably be a long lead time. And if we have to wipe down any books or CDs or whatever it is we get back, I guess we would have to make sure that we would have enough in the pipeline, right, before we could actually open in those phases. So whatever the ordering or, you know, and I don't, you know, is that purchasing? Is that, you know, is that you got, like, who's going to do that?
So Jimmy McCarthy in facilities has been very proactive about sourcing not just disinfectant, but also wipes and gloves and masks and PPE that would potentially be needed. We are not planning on wiping down individual books or CDs. The intent would be to have the community room be a quarantine point and have that room sprayed every evening. It doesn't get into the cases, but if we quarantine the items for 72 hours, that's sort of what the standard is for how long that virus might live on a that hard, shiny surface. On paper, it's fewer days. On plastic, a little bit different. So the idea is we'll hit it pretty hard with sanitization and disinfectant while they're in that space, and they'll be in that space for a period of time, tagged with the date, and then not handled by anybody once they're in that room until the 72 hours is completed. So if things come back and look really awful, we will wipe them down or discard them as needed, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds really reasonable. And I think that people will be reasonable about the hold for 72 hours if they, you know, think they're getting something. You'll be able to communicate that to them. Or we just, you know, if we get it back, we're not letting it out again. I think that's probably going to be more comforting than anything else to people in the community.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. And I know this, as I said, there will be on the agenda at the next board meeting as well. The next item on the agenda is an update on the Islington Branch Library, as we call it, the Wentworth Hall project. Again, Trish, I turn to you for your update.
Okay. So the good news is the foundation is still being worked on. The bad news is the foundation is
Still being worked on.
Yeah.
It started in October and it's still being worked on. So we do have weekly meetings with the architect, Mike McKay, the owner's project manager, and as of May 9th, the site has been re-stabilized. There was some concern that, given that several months had gone by since the excavation work was done, that stabilization measures were needed. So those have been undertaken, and a portion of the foundation has been waterproofed, part of the portion that was completed. And the general contractor's back on the site, hopefully finishing up the remaining foundation work. I believe that Wentworth Hall is fully prepped for subsequent demolition and the panelization of the walls that have been identified. It's not clear to me exactly who is going to do the panelization. That seems to be a little bit still to be decided, but the spaces and the actual measurements of what those are and have been identified. So general contractor bids are going to be published shortly, and the filed sub bids would be back on June 18th and the general contractor bids on June 25th. So we should know by June 26th what the direction is for continued vertical construction on the new Wentworth Hall Community Center, Youth and Family Services. As you know, the MMO closed in March, and they have determined that they are closing for the year. So I believe they're going to be out. If they're not out already, they're going to be out at the end of May. It's likely that a developer is going to want to start prepping that space in advance of whatever demolition work is needed. So right now, we don't have any dates, but it appears that temporary lodging will be required and is being looked at for youth and family services, because the new Wentworth Hall is not going to be inhabitable or even constructed by September or August, when the time frame for the general contractor would begin. At this point, I think discussions to relocate what was a temporary pop-up library space have determined that it would be best to temporarily pop down pending the completion of the new building. I don't have any really definite information about that, but I believe that there's not a space in Islington that's been identified as a potential pop-up space, and so we may be looking at storing part of that collection and part of the furnishings pending the construction of the new Wentworth Hall. So, so that's where that stands right now.
Any questions from the board members? No? Okay. Any further discussion? No, hearing none. Thank you, Trish, for the update. The next item on the agenda is the approval of acceptances and expenditures. And you're all in receipt of a document dated May 11, 2020 with the requested approvals of expenditures and acceptances. Has everybody had an opportunity to review that?
Yes.
Yes.
The chair will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
May
move on.
I ask
Oh,
a question?
Question.
Yes. Uh,
Could we have an explanation of what the $2,900 and the two $1,000 items are, please?
Yes, you can. The $2,900 was the signs for so the Friends of the Library, purchased the, Summer Champion Lives Here yard signs. And so the 700 signs that were purchased, that was the $2,900. And I believe the $2,000 items are for summer reading incentives for adults and teens and then children. So they haven't actually done the prize baskets or purchased any materials for them, but the Friends are allocating the funds in advance of the purchases.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No. Trustee Marcy Phelps made a motion to accept. Was there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Persons. We'll call the roll. Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Marcy Phelps,
Aye.
Trustee Thornton. Is Wendy there? Trustee Van Au,
Aye.
Trustee Cole,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And Trustee Thornton, I know that it
Hold
looked like
on, she evidently jumped off. Let me pull her back.
it's her net. She was having an issue with her bandwidth.
Yeah.
Here
I
she
think
comes.
we're supposed to note the departure and return of any members.
Yes.
I actually didn't leave. I could hear all of you. You just couldn't see me.
Okay.
But I say aye.
You say aye, so unanimously adopted. Thank
Great.
you. The next item on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business? No? Okay, so hearing none, then Trish, anything else that you want to bring to our attention?
No, I think staff are scheduling, vacations were not, it was not approved for rollovers, so staff are working on using up the allocated minimums that they need in order to not lose vacation time. So the month of May and April will be heavily weighted with vacation options. So some people, it is what it is, so the trips to Italy and the cruise and the Disney vacation for the family did not happen as planned. But, people are making the best of it, and there's quite a bit of vacation time on the books for some. So
Is that the case for the whole town, I imagine?
yeah, I think the only distinction was made for any department that was told that they could not use vacation time at the when this first rolled out. They're going to be allowing their staff to take one additional week, but our staff was never told that they couldn't take time. So it's just, the town has been extremely generous and gracious and supportive throughout this whole thing. I can't say enough about the town of Westwood and its supportive employees and staff at every level. So I think
There's an old saying that that applies to all of us right now. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Know what it is, let us know.
I probably should have brought this up under the director's report, but I do have a question about how we can make sure that we are reaching the most vulnerable or the people with the least services. I think I'm thinking about maybe elderly people who aren't on Zoom or who aren't on the internet, or I don't know if there's ways that we can actually make sure that we're, I don't know if it's coordinated with Westwood Media. They have TVs. And if there's some ways that we can get maybe some of these things that we've put out on, Facebook or something like that, if we can get them on TV, but I just worry about them a lot, because they really can't, a lot of them can't do the internet. As my mother said, does Google work on Sundays?
Krista, did people pick up the books at Roach Brothers? I know you guys had dropped a bunch of books off at Roach Brothers, because I know that's a great place where like Mary Beth is saying, that if people can't get to the library, they're all at Roche Brothers in the morning.
Yeah, we dropped off about 70 books on a Thursday afternoon. So Claire and I stood in line to get into the grocery
Right.
store with our masks and the cart of books. And they were very gracious, let us set up, that we couldn't actually set up the display because the person who was in charge wasn't there, but they said not to worry, just leave them here and we'll make sure it gets set up. They did an excellent job setting up our display, and all of the books. Claire went back at about 10 o'clock the next morning, and all of the Catherine Center were gone. And there was probably about 20 of the 50 bookwoman of Troublesome Creek left, and those were gone by the weekend. So
Oh, wow.
it was I think that people who were able to pick it up, I think there was no problem giving them away.
Yeah.
But to your point, Mary Beth, we have unofficially, there have been individuals who have called who, I'm 92 years old. I've really tried to do this. I can't do this. Digital is not my friend. And we have made arrangements to, have specific doorstep, non-contact deliveries made.
Great.
periodically.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody who may be watching the meeting, if they can reach out to the library, and we will do what we can to accommodate and try to be service you during this period. Any other new business? No? Hearing none?
Keep up the good work, Tricia.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole staff.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
I just want, although I should suggest a change in date to the meetings, to the agenda. Someone told me today that today is actually the 72nd day of March. If you kind of think about it, that's how many of us are counting that we've been in suspended animation since March, so it's really March 72nd.
Well, and the weather helps because it still feels like March.
It still feels like March.
Yeah.
If my camera was working, you would all see my stay-at-home goatee that I have grown.
Oh, we have one of those. Okay, that's the other measure of time these days. Yeah.
I guess
Quarantine
I don't know
beards.
whether it makes me more look like Tom Cruise or Billy Howard, but we'll leave that up to. I will accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Made by Trustee
Second.
Now, seconded by Trustee Marcy Phelps. I'll call the roll. Trustee Thornton,
Aye.
Trustee Cole,
Aye.
Trustee Persons,
Aye.
Trustee Marcy Phelps,
Hi.
Trustee Van Howe,
Aye.
and the chair also votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. I thank you all for your participation, and Trish for the steps you took to make the meeting happen. Please, everybody, stay safe and healthy, and to the extent possible, happy. Good night to all.
Thank you.
You
Bye now.
too.
Oh.
Bye.